Yo, what is up guys, Gray here, and today we have got our Week 8 battle of the IBL D-League against the Brisbane Scythers, coached by DWilly. And man, does this guy have a scary team. Just from the 6 that you can see on the screen, like, man, it's just got threats after threats. His bulk is really good. Like, this is definitely a tough game. And if you didn't watch our last video, we did pick up a win. Spoilers, by the way, if you didn't watch. Yeah, we picked up a win, and that put us on the brink of playoffs. We literally just need to win one of our last 2 games, and we are confirmed to get into playoffs. And considering how bad our start to the season was, that's not bad. Like, I would take that any day of the week, even if I don't make it into playoffs. Like, to have that kind of comeback was, it's really kind of quite good for me. But anyway, let's get into the teams. First up, his team, and if I can find it on this sheet, where is it? There it is. He's got Suicune, Clefable, Arcanine, Tangrowth, Latios, Scolipede, Mega Marwile, Zebstrika, Mamoswine, Venomoth, and Masquerain. So, everything is scary. Literally everything on the team just had that potential to be able to beat me. Like, his team is just full of threats. But yeah, he only could bring 6, and that was kind of like the main thing that kind of helped me in team building, is that I could kind of narrow down which 6 he was going to bring and prep a little bit more for the 6 that I thought he was going to bring over like 2 potential threats that aren't going to come. Despite that, I still needed to like make sure I had something for things that I didn't expect to turn up. For example, I didn't expect potentially Latios. That was like one that kind of threw me. Like, I definitely expected, well, definitely there was potential of it turning up. Same with Suicune. Like, those 2, there was like potential. Definitely expected Mamoswine. Like, I was shocked when I didn't see Mamoswine on his team, because that again just rolls through my team. I have nothing to check it. Similarly to Mega Gallade last week, it literally just beats my entire wall core. So to not see it was a huge relief, firstly. But going into the team that I brought, first up we have Piloswine. Eviolite, as always. Like, I don't know who's not running Eviolite Piloswine. I guess one week maybe I want Banded, but Eviolite is just so good. Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Rest, and Sleep Talk. This week I'm running Rest Talk just because I only needed 2 moves. I didn't really need a priority. Icicle Crash is just fine. Earthquake does a decent amount of damage, as long as I don't have the grassy terrain up. Like, I don't plan to use Bulu early game, so yeah, because of that I feel fairly safe having Earthquake this week. Rest and Sleep Talk is just there to keep myself healthy, because especially if you brought like Adamant, Life Orb, Mamoswine, it couldn't 2-hit KO me, and that means I can rest. I can literally just sit there and stall out its Life Orb if I wanted to. It has no way of setting up, so it's fairly safe. It's a good check to Latios. Decent check to Arcanine as well. Good check to Scolipede. Like, there were so many things that it checked really nicely. And that's despite still having a adamant nature. So yeah, that's Piloswine this week. Next up we have Mega Aggron, and again it's another check to a lot of his threats. Things such as Tangrowth could be a problem for my team. Don't really have like the moveset to deal with it, but I can like switch into it. I can use it as a pivot quite nicely. Good switch into Latios, again a great switch into Scolipede should I need to. Mainly here for Mega Marwile. Mega Marwile is just so powerful. Like, it just again tears through my team, even though my team resists it. Like, it's 2 stabs. Like, my wall core pretty much does fine against it if it didn't just like do 70% with some coverage move. So Mega Aggron actually can take a +2 Fire Fang, which is ideal in this matchup because there's a chance I might need it. But it's running Heavy Slam, Roar, Stealth Rock, and Thunder Wave this week. Thunder Wave, fairly obvious, I think, it is to hit Latios. It's into Scolipede, 2 things that I switch in quite nicely to. Yeah, and it can also like potentially Thunder Wave an Arcanine coming in. It can Thunder Wave potential Mega Marwile, which would be great because it means that it really absolutely has to rely on its Sucker Punch to hit. And yeah, mostly like entirely Spadef this week, partially because I didn't have the time to really go through and fine comb like all my EVs on this set. And I kind of threw in Mega Aggron last minute. I did have Toxapex up until like just before the battle started, or just before I gen'd my team for the battle, and decided, you know what, actually Mega Aggron is far better in this matchup, so ended up going with Mega Aggron instead. And yeah, I just made it fully Spadef so it could take hits from his specially offensive threats a little bit better. Raw is there entirely for Suicune in case it wants to set up Calm Minds. It can also raw out Scolipede, but that's kind of just like delaying the inevitable, and I feel like going for the Thunder Wave is just better against it. Next up we have Choice Scarf Hydreigon with Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, Fire Blast and U-Turn. Those three moves pretty much just like break through his entire team. I don't expect him to be wanting to switch in his Mega Marwell on this, so if that switch is obvious, I'll click Fire Blast. I can click Draco Meteor on pretty much anything, unless I think that he is 100% going into that Marwell. If it's especially defensive Mega Marwell, then yeah, absolutely you'll switch in. But U-Turn is also a very safe play. If he brings out his Suicune against it, I'm going to assume that he's probably either Spadef set or he's going to be Calm Mind. And like judging on what he switches in, I can either go for U-Turn or I can go for a especially offensive move to just get damage. But Hydreigon's just here as like a secondary check to a non-scarfed Latios, and also just to kind of do damage. Like it does quite a bit of damage to his entire team. And yeah, next up we have Firium Z Victini. We once again are running Z Sunny Day Victini. This team is fairly similar to a team I faced way back in the PTL, I think. I'm trying to remember what that team was, but there were certainly a few things that were similar. And between Psychic and Solar Beam, I kind of deal with the things that want to switch in. So Suicune, I would assume, is his first switch, and Arcanine would be his second, because they kind of take the hits best. But with a Sunny Day up, Solar Beam is going to potentially 2-hit KO a Suicune, depending on his spreads on it. I kind of expect it to be fully physically offensive to be able to deal with things like Hawlucha, but if he's like Spadef, then he will take a Solar Beam kind of alright, depending on what set he runs. Like if he runs Calm Mind, then a Solar Beam is going to be not 2-hit KO. But other than that, Blue Flare just destroys his team. Like Blue Flare in the sun is so powerful. I can only like begin to explain why I believe that Sunny Day Victini is the best weather abuser in the game. But Blue Flare in the sun literally just decimates things. Against a Intimidate Arcanine, I think it does like 40 to 50%, and that's resisted. Like that's absurd. That is ridiculous. But yeah, that's our Victini this week. Pretty much the same one we run. I forgot to mention Blue Flare, Psychic, Solar Beam, Sunny Day. I'm fairly sure we could work that out. Next up, we have Tapu Bulu. Again, we are running Scarf Bulu, so 2 Scarfers this week, not 3. I remembered to gen the right item this week, so we are running only the 2 Scarfers this week. Wood Hammer, Stone Edge, Megahorn, and Nature's Madness. Adamant Nature, enough speed, I believe, to outspeed Choice Scarf something. Great analysis. Choice Scarf something. It's either Choice Scarf. I'll go look at his team again, because I'm fairly sure it was to outspeed a Choice Scarf user. I think it's to outspeed a Adamant. No, it can't be to outspeed Adamant. What did I outspeed this for? This is bad. This is really bad. I honestly don't remember what this speed is for, but I'm sure it's here for a reason. I'm running 220 in speed, 28 in HP, and 252 in attack with Adamant Nature. Again, Wood Hammer just chunks everything except for a fully defensive Tangrowth. Scolipede also can switch into a Wood Hammer kind of alright. It takes like 30%, so it's not ideal. And again, Mega Marwell with the Intimidate before Mega Evolving, then it's going to take it just fine as well. But for the most part, he isn't going to particularly want to switch in on a Wood Hammer. Anything that does want to switch in, for the most part, doesn't want to switch into a Stone Edge. So if I expect the Arcanine or the Tangrowth, or even better the Scolipede to come in, then I can click Stone Edge. If I expect the Tangrowth to come in, 100% I can click Megahorn, but I believe Arcanine is going to be his first switch. Like, it's going to be the first thing he goes into. And last up, we have got our Hawlucha, Grassy Seed. The exact same set actually as last week, with Drain Punch, Acrobatics, Swords Dance as a substitute. I realised on my team builder, I've actually got as Limber. I do make sure it's unburdened in the battle, so that's something that could have messed me up. 252 HP, 252 attack, and 4 in speed. The 4 in speed I think actually is for something. I want to say it outspeeds a Adamant. Let me work this out. I think it's Adamant Scolipede with investment for a certain mon. So I think it's to outspeed like a Choice Scarf something at +2. But I don't entirely remember, I just remember that 4 in speed actually helped me outspeed something. So yeah, 252 in HP, 252 in attack, Adamant Nature. It's there to take a hit and hopefully get a sub off, Swords Dance if I need to. But again, Drain Punch Acrobatics is all I need this week to be able to kind of sweep his team. But will it happen again? We got the 5 kills with it last week. We will see. So going into the matchup, I was like, okay, well, Hydreigon is looking pretty safe. I don't expect him to lead with his Mega Mawile, and for the most part I can click Fire Blast if I want to, and just do a lot of damage. If he leads off with something like Suicune, then I can U-turn, go into my Tapu Bulu, and go from there. Anything else, like his Arcanine, I can Dark Pulse. If he goes into his Tangrowth, I've got a 50-50 as where I go for U-turn or Fire Blast, and if he stays in, then he is probably Assault Vest. If he goes into his Latios first, I just straight up switch into a Piloswine. And if he needs Scolipede, that's ideal, I Fire Blast that as well. So Hydreigon seemed like a great lead for me. Very few matchups in which it didn't seem too great. And I'm going to take a drink like I do before every battle, just because I don't want my voice to die mid-battle. As we are going to see, that he leads off with his Arcanine. And first off, he's just immediately lost because he doesn't have any nicknames on his mons, so therefore that's like conceding defeat before the battle's even started. But like I said, I'm just going to go for a Dark Pulse. I'm not going to predict anything to come in, and I'm just going to do as much damage to something as I can. I'm fairly sure it was going to 2-hit KO a offensive Arcanine if it was offensive. It would have sucked if he had hit me with close combat in return, but actually he goes out into his Mawile, and that does a decent chunk. As I'm just going to double out into my Victini, as he actually doubles into his Suicune, so I guess that's a nice play, but I'm assuming this is probably specially defensive. Regardless, I'm sick of waiting around and I just get itchy and go straight for my Z. I go straight for the Z Sunny Day. In hindsight, just going for the regular Sunny Day would have made more sense, because then I could use my Z Sunny Day later on in the battle. But whether that comes back to bite me, I don't know. But it gives me a chance to potentially just kind of start chunking things down. Like I said, there's nothing that really appreciates this Victini on his team. And as you're going to see, that Scald is not even potentially a 4-hit KO. It's like a roll to 4-hit KO me. So I go for the Solar Beam, and I don't actually know what this set is, but I'm fairly sure that this is like some kind of mixed bulk. At the very least, it's like got some kind of Spadef investment, I believe. So he's going to go in for another Scald, and it's potentially going to 4-hit KO me, which kind of sucks. It's doing 90. It did 90 with the first two, so it is a roll. So he's actually going to switch out into his Mawile, expecting me to go for another Solar Beam. I didn't expect him to want to stay in. I kind of expected him to go into his Arcanine, so I just go for the Psychic, trying to catch that on the switch. As he goes into his Mawile, I'm assuming that he's going to go for Sucker Punch. So here, it was kind of 50-50. I went back and forth as to whether I think that he's going to run Brick Break or Focus Punch. Like, if he went for Focus Punch there, he's an absolute man, and he deserves to get the kill. But if he decides to go for any kind of coverage move, if he decides to go for Fire Fang for whatever reason, then that kind of sucked. But I felt like Aggron was 100% my play, just because if he went for the Sucker Punch, then it did nothing. And I know I can take a Fire Fang in the sun, which when I was doing it, I was like, oh shit, I've given him the sun against my Mega Aggron. Am I going to be able to take this hit? I don't know. So I was going to like double back out into my Victini. and decided in the end to calc it, and it just did like nothing. It did like 35 to 45%, somewhere around there. So I was fairly happy letting my Aggron take that kind of damage. It is my check to Scolipede, but I do have other checks in my Piloswine if he's not running Z Aquatail, that is. But he's just going to stay in here. I'm guessing he's just sacking off his Mega Marwile, and regardless I was going to go for rocks because I know I can take that Fire Fang and Sun, and it turns out he doesn't actually have it, or he decides to just not go for it. I'm not sure, he's just looking for flinches and trying to wear me down. The Iron Head actually did a pretty decent amount of damage. Like, Mega Marwile is ridiculous. But I'm going to get my rocks up, and I'm going to go for a Heavy Slam and hope that I don't get flinched by this second Iron Head, as we're now in a good place because he doesn't really have a reliable rock removal, and that's kind of great for my team against his. It does mean that later in the game Hawlucha is going to be able to come in and sweep because I can be behind a sub and he's taking rocks damage. And he's going to just take rocks damage immediately on this Arcanine. So I'm going to go back out into my Victini. I have no reason to kind of keep this thing around anymore. It's done pretty much what it needs to do. As he actually goes for the Will-O-Wisp, which is fantastic for me, and goes for the Extreme Speed. I don't know if he was expecting me to maybe try and set up again with the Sunny Day, expecting the Suicune to come back in. But I'm just going to go for the Psychic, because at that point 2 Psychics did take down the Suicune if it came back in. And we do get a Spadef drop, which kind of makes my next move fairly easy. So that is a fantastic screenshot of Tangrowth. If I can, I'm going to make this the thumbnail. But yeah, because I get the Spadef drop, it 100% means that I can KO with Blue Flare. I could go for the Psychic again, but if I'm in a position where he goes back into his Suicune on it, like, Psychic seemed like the obvious play, so going into Suicune probably wasn't the greatest play on his behalf, because it would have meant it was to get KO'd. So I just go for the Blue Flare if he goes out into his Suicune. Again, I think that's just doing like 20% and then Psychic is killing. But he actually goes out into his Tangrowth, and I have never seen a Tangrowth drop just as quick as this. This is one very burnt bowl of noodles, and yeah, that was a terrible joke. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, it's just going to go down, and now he brings out his Scolipede. The big threat is in. This thing is a worry, and he's going to take the rocks, and I cannot let him set up. Whether it be a Swords Dance or a sub, I can't let him set up, because that must be in a really bad place. And I just go for the Blue Flare again. In hindsight, that was a bad play. I should have gone for Psychic, because Psychic still KO'd if he went for the Swords Dance, but I wasn't in the business of calcing against this thing. I just wanted to make sure it couldn't set up. And again, I could try and switch out, expecting him to not go for sub or Swords Dance, because if he goes for Swords Dance, he dies. If he subs, he just gets it broken again. I could have gone out to something else, but I had no reason to. I really didn't have any reason to at this point. And yeah, Victini's going to go down, unfortunately, but it certainly did its job. It did really well. It just kind of chunked down what it needed to set up a good sweeping opportunity for Hawlucha late game. And now I'm going to go to my Mega Aggron. I'm just going to throw off a Thunder Wave. That's my plan for it. And fortunately, we catch a Latios on the switch. Weird switch from my opponent, because Heavy Slam still just did a ton of damage to this Latios. But whether he was expecting something else, I don't really know. But the Thunder Wave is fantastic. I'm just going to double out into my Piloswine. At this point, if I can keep my Mega Aggron at a good amount of health, a +2 Z Earthquake will still not take me out, and a Heavy Slam can do enough in return. So yeah, we're in a great position at the moment. He goes for the Dragon Pulse, as I'm going to go for the Icicle Crash. That Dragon Pulse did nothing, by the way. It just completely chewed it. Yeah, and Icicle Crash is just going to KO. So another one of his threats down, and we're looking pretty good as he goes back out into his Suicune. Going to get the rocks damage, and by the way, I forgot to mention this when I went for Solar Beam. I didn't see any leftovers, so I kind of assumed this was going to be some kind of Resto Chesto set, potentially going to be Calm Mind, but regardless, my switch here was to go into Hydreigon. I didn't expect him going for an Ice Beam because it was a Piloswine that was in front of him, so I expected something like a Scald or a Calm Mind, maybe a Toxic, and I didn't mind too much if my Hydreigon got toxic. I don't plan to keep it in very often, but because he is Resto Chesto, at this point I'm going to go for the U-turn on the off chance that he goes for Calm Mind. Like, again, he's going for Calm Mind or he's going for Ice Beam here. Possibly Toxic again. Like, he could be going for any of those moves, knowing he can take whatever I want to throw at him. And I'm going to go out to my Bulu because I know I can live any hit, any Ice Beam from this. And actually with Grassy Terrain, I have a good chance of not getting 2-hit KO'd. I believe, I want to say. But I don't expect him to stay in. And as you can see, he's going to go for the Ice Beam. And it's going to go into like a reasonably low amount of health. But I am in a place where it is a roll to kill me. However, Woodhammer is 100% not a roll. I've seen his item, he's not Rindo, so Woodhammer at this point is going to pick up a KO on pretty much anything he wants to bring in. And he decides at this point it's time to sack Arcanine. It just goes down, and it does give him another opportunity to bring Scolipede in. But the difference is this time, is that when his Scolipede is in, I have the Grassy Terrain up, and I'm going to wait for it to get to that turn. At this point, I'm now back out of range of an Ice Beam from a Suicune, like guaranteed out of range. So that's fantastic. His Scolipede takes another lot of rocks, and I've got to play aggressive. Because I've got my Grassy Terrain up, I cannot let this thing set up again. And if I stay in with Bulu, there is a chance that he can set up, as Woodhammer from that range, it may not have killed. So I had to play it safe, and I say play it safe, I had to go aggressive and go into my Holucha. And at this point, I'm fairly sure he's not got Protect because we've just seen Swords Dance, and that's fantastic for me. Like, if he had Swords Dance, then I'm going to just pause it here. If he had Swords Dance, then he didn't have Protect, and I go in, I outspeed at +1, I click Acrobatics and take it out. If he has Protect, he probably doesn't have Swords Dance, because why would he just run Earthquake on this set? And if he just ran Earthquake, then my Holucha is absolutely fine. So I'm in a great place. Regardless of what he wants to go for, I'm fairly sure I can take a hit, and I don't think he's going to have both Protect and Swords Dance to be able to do anything. If he does, then it's got Earthquake, he can't take me out anyway. So I'm just going to pick up the KO here. He doesn't have Protect. I'm going to assume his last move was like Mega Horn or Poison Jab. Most likely Poison Jab actually, which even at +2 against my +1 Holucha wasn't enough to take me out. And he's going out to his Suicune, and at this point I do need to set up a Swords Dance, just on the off chance that he goes for Ice Beam instead of Scald. If he Scalds me and burns me, then that kind of sucks, but I can set up a second Swords Dance after that and just hit an Acrobatics, do as much damage as possible, go into my Bulu and click Woodhammer and win. But actually he goes for the Ice Beam. I'm just hoping for no freeze, because that would really suck. But after that Ice Beam, after these Swords Dance even, a Drain Punch into Acrobatics will kill, and the Drain Punch will actually give me enough health in which I guaranteed lived a Ice Beam. So it all came down to whether a freeze or here happened as to whether we got a 4-0 or a 5-0. But as you're going to see, we are going to live. No freeze, Acrobatics is going to take down Suicune, and we win. We are in playoffs. Good game to DWilly. Certainly his team was so scary, and at any point, like, he could have set up with that Scolipede. If I played badly, if he set up a Scolipede, then he would have just won. Like, if it got to a certain point where it was like +2 with +3 speed or something along those lines, then he just won, because I could only live so much with Aggron and with Piloswine, and like I said, Holucha can only take so much damage as well. It's quite frail. So yeah, I felt like I played that one pretty much perfectly, which is complete juxtaposition from last week, where I felt I played everything badly, I made all the wrong plays. But this week I felt really quite happy coming out of this battle. I made all the correct plays. I felt I predicted when I needed to. I played it safe when I needed to. When I got the advantage, I just played it safe, and that was all I kind of needed to do. And I'm really happy to pick up a 5-0. It does actually put us back in contention for that number 2 spot, because we're on the same record as 2 other teams. I won't spoil the results, because that would really suck if I was just to spoil results for everybody else. But it does put us in contention, because we're on the same record as the team in second, and we have a differential that can catch up. Because if we win and they lose, there is a good chance that we will be above them. So yeah, we go 5-3, and this season has definitely gone from a major like downer to being like a really good comeback. We've won 4 in a row now after losing 3 in a row, and I'm really happy with like everything. Like, I felt like I've just got more comfortable with the team. It's a very short season, so it's kind of hard to do that, and I feel like the trades that I made were just what I needed to be able to really gel with this team. Toxapex has been a great pickup for me mid-season. Certainly Tentacruel was doing nothing for me, so picking that up has been almost a revelation for me. Having that extra bulk has been fantastic, especially with the grassy terrain. Like, it's kind of quite nice to be in a position where, though both my biggest walls are weak to ground, I do have that the earthquake negating ability. God, my brain has just gone to shit. And also I have 2 levitate users, levitate user and a flying type, so I feel like my ground resists are pretty solid. And yeah, I think overall this team I kind of gelled with, and I'm starting to go into this before my last battle, which is next week, against Flying Bird, I want to say it is. I'm fairly sure that's who it is I'm facing. But it's definitely Fort Wayne Gastrodons. But yeah, this season has been definitely ups and downs, and I'm hoping that I can do well in playoffs. Like, when I played other people who I lost against earlier in the season, I knew of ways in which I could win those battles, but I just didn't play it right, or I didn't bring the right set. There was minor things that made me lose early on, and I feel like going into playoffs, if I play it right, I have a relatively decent chance of taking it all away. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. Like, I need to win my last battle, hopefully, well, I say hopefully get a bye. I don't care really if I get a bye or not, because if I'm going to win this, I need to beat everyone anyway. So it's just one less person to have to beat. I'm going to have to win at least 2 battles anyway to win the championship. So yeah, next week we go up against, I want to say it's Flying Bird, I really do, but he changes his name on Discord every 2 seconds, so I don't really know. But we're going against Fort Wayne Gastrodons. If that's his team, then that's his team. And yeah, hopefully we can go to 6-3, end the season on a winning run. But it is what it is. If we've made playoffs at this point, so I'm not too worried. Anyway, I'm going to go. I've forgotten my outro of what shitty lack of an outro I have. But have a great day. I will see you guys in the next video. That is all I say. Sound a bit like shady, but I don't know what it's about. Peace out. I'll see you guys in the next one.